Hi again then guys, and welcome to another special Projects Replica style build. And in this particular replica we are replicating an alternative version of the Lamborghini Gallardo, in particular the LP570. And this particular replica is of the not necessarily hugely popular or highly requested, but nonetheless alternative version of the Gallardo, called of course the Balboni, named after Lamborghini's primary test driver. And this is most notable among the Gallardo range, the main models that is, for being a rear-wheel drive model. This is much more of a cornering machine rather than an all-round machine, which is what the Gallardo in its normal form tends to be considered more as. It's pretty good in the straight line, pretty good around corners, etc., whereas the Balboni is much more about the fun factor than necessarily being quicker. So bearing that in mind, we've replicated that as best as we can. Now of course you cannot make this car rear-wheel drive, so the best and nearest thing you can do is to use the centre diff and the regular diff to at least make it feel more like a rear-wheel drive car, as much as possible. Now, as far as the visuals, I would recommend using Enkei RCT4 rims, which are these multi-spoke rims that you can see. I've finished those in a dark metallic grey or black, kind of a carbon-ish kind of colour. And there are a number of those that you can get. For the body itself, of course you could go for a number of different colours, but I've gone for a similar blue to the probably best known colour that the Balboni is seen in, that same kind of blue. The particular blue that I chose to use is called French blue, and that comes from the Triumph Spitfire. It's a pretty good looking blue, goes well on quite a few models, and that's it for the visuals. No body upgrades, no wing upgrades, etc. So, we'll go first of all, of course, to the mechanical tune setup for the replica of the car, and then obviously take it out to a track. Now this build is rounded off, as you can see, to 550 pp, which is often nice to do if you can. It makes it at least a bit more relevant if you do choose to use it for competition rather than just for fun. I've gone for sport soft tyres, but you don't have to, of course. You could go for whatever you want. I've left the brakes stock, again, to make it feel more authentic, like an actual road car. For the suspension, I've got the ride height 5mm higher on the front to even out that ride height. For the springs, we've got them on 575 and 875, the dampers and anti-roll all to 2 all round, neutral camber, neutral toe. We'll come back to the gearbox in just a second. As far as the diff, and of course I would recommend changing this around, especially with a tune and a vehicle like this, because different people have different preferences. I've opted, as you can see, for the lowest initial torque, the highest acceleration to keep some semblance of control to the steering and not to let it just run away with itself, and the lowest possible braking, and then more importantly the centre diff sends 90% of the torque to the rear to make it handle and act much more like a rear-wheel drive machine, or as much as we can in that regard. Now I have done an oil change on this car. You want a stage 3 engine tune and the sports computer, and then reduce the power down to 79.2%, which brings us to the real power of the actual Balboni. And then for the weight, you want the stage 1 weight reduction, then add 97 kilos and put that 15% towards the rear of the car. And finally for the gearbox, there are some slight changes, an auto setting of 205, and we are running the real gears of the Balboni version, which is 3.31, 2050, 1460, 1140, 940, 780, and a final drive of 4060. And that's it overall for the build. We're running the real power, the real weight, as close to rear-wheel drive as we can get, and 550 pp. So now let's finally, of course, take it out to a track to see how different it is to the regular Gallardo. Now on GT6, the Gallardo in general is known for being a little more temperamental than some other exotics for setting up, particularly in regard to handling. Now this particular model is more, as I said, for fun than to be fast, and as you can see it is very tail happy, but at the same time that tiny 10% of torque going to the front, and of course the power also going to the front, means that it does keep a little bit more control so that you can actually drift it really well. It's extremely fun to drive, very beginner friendly as far as drifting goes, And so overall, if you do decide to use this build, of course don't expect it to win races or set best lap records, but purely for fun, it's a pretty good replica, if I don't say so myself. So if you do decide to use it, obviously I do hope you find it fun first and foremost, and if you'd like to keep up with other builds like this, be sure to click through to the playlist at the end of this video. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.